court proceedings have been adjourned in the Ramaphosa versus Mkhwebane case. Ramaphosa has secured the interdict. Let's cross live to our editorial contributor, Karen Morn in Pretoria. Karen, good morning to you. President Ramaphosa has secured this interdict. What does this mean?
Well, essentially, what the President has managed to do is get an order that will stay the implementation of the remedial action ordered by Busisiwe Mkhwebane in her report on his CR17 campaign until such time as his substantive review of that report, which he contends is legally and factually flawed, is finalized by this court. Interestingly enough, of course, the court acknowledging in the order that's just been granted by Judge Peter Mabuse that this matter needs to be heard on an expedited basis, which basically means that the normal times that it takes to hear this kind of case will be shortened quite dramatically, and this will be heard as soon as possible. No mention being made in the short submissions by the parties in this case about this very contentious issue of the Rule 53 record and the disclosure or non-disclosure of certain bank statements, emails and other evidence that the Public Protector has in her possession about the CR17 campaign, which Ramaphosa's lawyers contend need to be sealed until such time as the lawfulness of the way in which they have been obtained has been established by the court.
And just really going into those emails and bank statements linked to the C17 election campaign, what did the lawyers argue in that regard? What was their discussion and their pointers based on when it comes to perhaps the credibility of those reports?
Well, essentially what they contend is that because ABSA and Standard Bank have come forth and said they weren't subpoenaed to provide bank statements, Ramaphosa's lawyers, in a 4-page letter that was sent to the Deputy Judge President Aubrey Ladwaba last week, essentially questioning the lawfulness of how they were obtained. They've also questioned the lawfulness of certain emails believed to be in Mkhwebane's possession, which she doesn't detail in the report, but she makes reference to as quote-unquote evidence in my possession. They're questioning how those emails were obtained. They also asked the court to conceal the confidential banking information of their donors. Now, essentially, as viewers will know, that horse has largely bolted with the disclosure in a number of media reports over the weekend, including a full ventilation of a number of Ramaphosa's funders by the Sunday Independent. So that part, in terms of the non-disclosure and the confidentiality seems to potentially no longer be an issue. But I do think, given the kind of strong statement that was issued by the President's office over the weekend over its grave concerns about the disclosure of this material, that we may well see Ramaphosa's lawyers questioning how that information came into the possession of the newspaper just literally a day or 2 days after his lawyers raised that question over whether or not those records should be sealed and publicly disclosed. They have now been publicly disclosed through the media.
Now, Karen, we know that the Public Protector has lost several high-profile cases in the past course of the past few weeks, and we also know that a lot of strong wording has been used to describe, the work that she's done in terms of all the court cases that have taken to the courts. What does this now say about the credibility of the Public Protector? How does this case affect or perhaps dent her credibility as a Public Protector?
Well, in terms of the Bosasa matter, she did what she would normally do in these kind of applications and didn't oppose it. I mean, it's very unusual for the Public Protector to oppose this kind of interdict. She didn't do it in terms of the Helen Ziller cases. There were a number of other cases that were brought up by the court on Thursday, in terms of their contention that it was very unusual and mind-boggling, I think was the word that the judge used, that she would oppose the President's application in regard to Pravin Gordhan. But essentially, in terms of this case, the big question mark is how did she obtain this evidence? And if it was obtained lawfully, what does that mean for the report? I think she's going to come back very strongly and dispute those kind of allegations. But it's very crucial that she do so in terms of not only establishing the legality of how that report was compiled, but also reputationally and that she establishes or takes the court into her confidence as to how that information was obtained.
Thank you. Let's leave it there. Our editorial contributor, Karen Morn, in breaking news, President Cyril Ramaphosa has secured his interdict. Of course.